How many times have you started your day reacting to the world instead of consciously choosing how you want to live? Most of us wake up and, almost instinctively, check our phones, respond to messages, worry about pending tasks, and immerse ourselves in a whirlwind of responsibilities and distractions before even having the chance to connect with ourselves. This is the reality of modern life. We live on autopilot, slaves to our emotions, external validations, and countless distractions competing for our attention. According to various studies on mental health, more than 70% of people report feeling that they have no control over their lives and are simply reacting to circumstances rather than directing them. The purpose of this text is to offer you a powerful alternative. 15 principles based on Stoic philosophy that, repeated daily as personal mantras, have the power to reprogram your mind and radically transform the way you face life. Stoicism is not, as many erroneously believe, a philosophy that promotes emotional repression or indifference to life. On the contrary, it is a practical tool for mastering your mind, cultivating mental clarity, and acting with determination even in the midst of chaos. Stoic philosophers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus did not develop abstract theories destined for academic debates, but practical principles for navigating the complexity of human existence. What makes these principles so powerful is that they focus on what is under our control, our judgments, our decisions, and our actions. Everything else, others' opinions, external events, the results of our efforts, falls outside our direct control. This fundamental distinction frees us from the anxiety of trying to control the uncontrollable and allows us to concentrate our energy where it truly matters. Let's begin by exploring the Stoic principles that, turned into daily affirmations, can transform your mindset. 1. My time is sacred and finite. I invest it, not spend it. Time is the most valuable resource we possess. Unlike money, health, or material possessions, once time is gone, there is no way to recover it. Yet paradoxically, it is the resource we most easily waste on trivial distractions, activities that bring us no real value, or worries about a past we cannot change, or a future that has not yet arrived. Seneca dedicated one of his most important treatises, On the Brevity of Life, to this crucial topic. He reminded us that it's not that we have little time, but that we waste much of it. Life is long enough if we know how to use it properly, but when it's wasted in the pursuit of empty pleasures, hollow ambitions, or endless distractions, no amount of time seems sufficient. When each morning you say to yourself, my time is sacred and finite, I invest it, not spend it, you are establishing a powerful intention to relate to your time in a conscious and deliberate manner. This affirmation invites you to constantly evaluate yourself. Am I investing my time in activities that bring me closer to my deepest values and the person I want to be, or am I spending it on distractions that, within a year, will have no importance? To apply this Stoic principle in your daily life, conduct a time audit for a week, honestly recording how you invest each hour. Identify your personal time thieves and establish clear boundaries. Practice the time blocking technique, assigning specific spaces in your schedule for the most important activities, not just the most urgent ones. Before sleeping, ask yourself, did I invest my time well today? What could I do differently tomorrow? Remember that true wealth is not measured by how much you have, but by how you invest your lifetime. 2. I choose carefully what I let into my mind. In the information age, our minds are constantly bombarded by stimuli, sensationalist news, polarized opinions, social media comparisons, entertainment designed to create addiction, and endless digital distractions. This constant bombardment profoundly affects our mental peace, our ability to concentrate, and our perception of reality. Epictetus emphasized the importance of being selective about what we allow into our minds, comparing it to a fortress that we must jealously protect. What we mentally consume eventually becomes the substance of our thoughts, and our thoughts determine our actions and, ultimately, our life. When you repeat, "I choose carefully what I let into my mind," you remind yourself that you have the power and responsibility to be the guardian of your mental space. This implies establishing healthy boundaries with media, social networks, negative people, and any other influence that drains your energy or distorts your perspective. Practically, this could mean starting your day with a screen-free hour dedicated to reflection, reading nutritious content, or intentional planning. It could also imply a regular digital audit to eliminate apps, accounts, or subscriptions that don't bring real value to your life. Remember, every image, every video, every conversation you allow into your mind is silently shaping who you are and who you are becoming. 3. I improve a little each day, without rushing and without pausing. In our culture obsessed with immediate results, we have lost patience with gradual processes. We want radical transformations overnight, losing 10 kilos in a week, mastering a language in a month, becoming experts in a skill after an intensive weekend course. This mentality not only sets us up for frustration, but misunderstands the true nature of human growth, which is inherently gradual and incremental. The Stoics valued constant progress above spectacular but unsustainable advances. Seneca taught us that just as a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step, the transformation of our mind and character happens day by day, through small decisions and consistent habits. What matters is not the magnitude of each step, but the constant direction toward where we want to go. When you repeat, "I improve a little each day," without rushing and without pausing, you are adopting a mindset of sustainable growth. This affirmation frees you from the pressure to achieve dramatic immediate changes and allows you to focus on the incremental progress that, accumulated over time, produces extraordinary results. To embody this principle, adopt the 1% rule, seek to improve just 1% each day in the area you want to develop. This small increment, compounded over time, produces exponential growth. Keep a learning record where you document daily a lesson, however small, that you have extracted from your experiences. Celebrate micro-triumphs. Recognize and appreciate small advances instead of dismissing them for their apparent insignificance. Remember that consistency trumps intensity. It's better to practice 15 minutes daily than 5 hours once a month. True mastery comes not from occasional heroic efforts, but from the unwavering commitment to constant gradual improvement. 4. Even when the world is in chaos, I maintain calm. We live in an era of constant turbulence, global crises, political polarization, economic uncertainty, climate change, accelerated technological transformation, and constantly evolving social pressures. Amid this whirlwind, maintaining mental serenity is not just a philosophical aspiration, but a practical necessity for mental health and effective decision-making. The Stoics understood that chaos is an inherent part of human existence. Instead of resisting this reality, they developed practices to cultivate inner tranquility, regardless of external circumstances. Epictetus taught us that it is not external events that disturb us, but our interpretations and judgments about them. By repeating, "Even when the world is in chaos, I maintain calm," you are creating a mental anchor point to which you can return when life storms threaten to destabilize you. This affirmation reminds you that your inner peace is not at the mercy of circumstances, but is a capacity that you can cultivate and maintain. To put this principle into practice, develop a routine of strategic pauses during your day, brief moments to breathe consciously, recalibrate your perspective, and reconnect with your center. Practice the Stoic distinction between what is under your control and what is not, concentrating your energy exclusively on the former. And cultivate the ability to observe your thoughts and emotions without completely identifying with them, recognizing that you are the space of consciousness in which they arise, not the temporary turbulence that passes through it. 5. I don't need others' approval to live with dignity. One of the heaviest chains we carry is the constant search for external validation. From childhood, we learn to measure our worth by others' reactions, teachers' grades, parents' applause, peers' acceptance. As adults, this pattern intensifies with social media likes, professional praise, and social approval of our life choices. Stoicism proposes a radical freedom, living according to our own principles and values, regardless of others' opinions. Seneca warned about the danger of living to please others, noting that it is impossible to please everyone, and that in trying to do so, we lose our authenticity and inner peace. By repeating, "I don't need others' approval to live with dignity," you are declaring your emotional independence. This is not about becoming arrogant or inconsiderate, but about finding your center of gravity in your own values and convictions, not in the changing opinions of the outside world. This principle manifests in concrete decisions such as respectfully expressing an unpopular opinion when necessary, establishing clear boundaries even if they generate momentary discomfort, or following a less conventional path that resonates with your deepest values, even if it receives criticism. True dignity comes from the coherence between your values and your actions, not from external applause. 6. I am not controlled by momentary emotions, but guided by enduring principles. Emotions are an integral part of the human experience. But when we allow them to be the dominant force in our decision-making, we often end up acting in ways that contradict our deeper values and compromise our long-term goals. Fear makes us avoid growth opportunities. Anger leads us to damage important relationships. Anxiety paralyzes us in the face of challenges we could overcome. Contrary to common misconception, Stoicism does not promote the suppression of emotions, but the development of a more conscious relationship with them. Epictetus taught that we should recognize our emotions, but not allow them to dictate our actions. Instead, we should evaluate them in light of our fundamental principles and values. When each morning you tell yourself, "I am not controlled by momentary emotions, but guided by enduring principles," you are strengthening your capacity for conscious self-direction. This affirmation reminds you that, although you cannot control what emotions arise in you, you can decide how to respond to them. To live this principle, practice name and face. When you feel an intense emotion, name it specifically. This is fear, this is anger, this is envy, and acknowledge it without judging yourself for feeling it. Develop the habit of the value pause. Before acting from a strong emotion, ask yourself, if I acted according to this emotion, would I be being true to my most important values? Identify your trigger emotions, those that tend to hijack your behavior, and develop specific plans for when they arise. Remember that being guided by principles doesn't mean being rigid or insensitive, but responding to situations from your internal center of gravity instead of being dragged by the emotional current of the moment. 7. I don't depend on motivation. My strength is in consistency. One of the biggest traps of modern personal development is the dependence on motivation as fuel for action. We expect to feel inspired before starting to work on our goals, exercising, studying, or facing difficult tasks. The problem is that motivation is volatile, appearing and disappearing like clouds on a windy day. Stoicism teaches us that true transformation comes not from fleeting moments of inspiration, but from the constant practice of virtuous habits, regardless of how we feel. Marcus Aurelius used to remind himself each morning that he should rise to do the work of a human being, not because he felt motivated, but because it was his duty and purpose. Consistency is a mental muscle that strengthens with daily practice. When you repeat, "I don't depend on motivation, my strength is in consistency," you are programming your mind to act based on principles and commitments, not passing emotions. This will allow you to move forward even on difficult days, when motivation is scarce and internal resistance is strong. To apply this principle, identify a small but significant action related to your most important goal and commit to doing it every day, without exception, regardless of how you feel. It could be writing 300 words of your book, meditating for 10 minutes, or exercising for 20 minutes. What matters is not the magnitude of the action, but the unwavering regularity with which you perform it. 8. Pain is part of life, but I choose to grow with it. Our modern culture is obsessed with avoiding pain. We incessantly seek comfort, convenience, and instant gratification. Discomfort, in any form, is seen as something that must be eliminated or avoided at all costs. However, this mindset leaves us ill-equipped to face life's inevitable difficulties. Stoic philosophy adopts a radically different perspective. Pain, adversity, and obstacles are not unfortunate interruptions in a life that should be constantly pleasant, but essential elements that, when properly approached, strengthen us and help us grow. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that what stands in the way becomes the way. When you incorporate the affirmation, "Pain is part of life, but I choose to grow with it," into your daily internal dialogue, you're adopting an active stance toward difficulties. It's not about seeking suffering for its own sake, but recognizing that meaningful growth occurs precisely in moments of greatest challenge. This principle translates into concrete actions such as breathing deeply and asking yourself, "What can I learn from this?" when facing a difficult situation. Intentionally seeking situations that take you out of your comfort zone to develop new mental resilience, or practicing the premeditation of adversities, a Stoic exercise that consists of visualizing possible difficulties in advance to be mentally prepared when they arise. 9. What I silently accept defines what I allow in my life. Our personal boundaries, what we allow and don't allow in our life, are defined not so much by grandiloquent declarations as by what we tolerate day to day. We silently accept disrespectful behaviors, situations that drain our energy, jobs that violate our values, or relationships that undermine our dignity. And then we are surprised when these elements become established patterns in our life. Epictetus emphasized the importance of establishing clear principles and living according to them, without making concessions that would compromise our integrity. For the Stoics, each time we accept something that goes against our values, we are implicitly renegotiating our personal standards downward. When you incorporate the affirmation, "What I silently accept defines what I allow in my life," into your daily internal dialogue, you are strengthening your ability to establish and maintain healthy boundaries. This affirmation reminds you that you are the guardian of your vital space, and that you have not only the right, but the responsibility to protect your physical, mental, and emotional well-being. To put this principle into practice, identify current situations where you are tolerating something that contradicts your values or harms your well-being. Practice assertively expressing your boundaries. "I am not available for," "I am not comfortable when," "I need you to respect my decision to." Remember that establishing boundaries is not an act of aggression, but of self-respect and clarity. Recognize that each time you stand firm in your standards, you are teaching others how to treat you. Your life gradually becomes the reflection of what you are willing to accept. Consciously choose what to allow and what to reject. 10. My actions reveal my true values, not my words. In our era of overexposure on social networks, we have developed a culture where public declarations, hashtags, and verbal positions often substitute real commitment and consistent action. It's easy to talk about our values, the importance of family, discipline, honesty, sustainability, or social justice. However, an honest examination of our daily actions often reveals significant disconnections between what we say we value and how we actually live. One of the central principles of Stoicism is coherence between words and actions. Epictetus warned against the danger of being philosophers only in word and not in practice. For the Stoics, philosophy was not an intellectual exercise to impress others, but a way of life that should manifest in concrete decisions and behaviors. By repeating daily, "My actions reveal my true values, not my words," you commit to living with authenticity and integrity. This affirmation invites you to a constant exercise of self-questioning. Are my actions aligned with my declared values? Am I living according to my own principles, or are there areas of hypocrisy that I need to address? To embody this Stoic principle, identify 3 fundamental values that you consider central to your life. For each value, define 3 specific and observable behaviors that would demonstrate that value in action. Establish a weekly self-evaluation system to review how your actions have reflected or not those values. When you identify discrepancies, don't punish yourself. Instead, recognize them as opportunities for growth and make specific adjustments. True nobility is not in speaking eloquently about abstract virtues, but in silently living them in everyday decisions, even when no one is watching. 11. I don't let myself be seduced by empty pleasures that weaken my will. We live in a society designed to trap us in cycles of instant gratification. Social media notifications, 24/7 available streaming entertainment, ultra-processed food designed to activate our reward circuits, one-click shopping, addictive mobile games. The modern world has perfected the art of offering us immediate pleasures that, paradoxically, leave us feeling empty and craving more. Stoicism does not promote extreme asceticism or the rejection of all pleasure. In fact, the Stoics recognize that a virtuous life can be genuinely pleasant. However, they established a crucial distinction between pleasures that strengthen and enrich us and those that weaken and enslave us. Seneca warned us about pleasures that, under the appearance of gifts, become traps that compromise our inner freedom. When you incorporate the affirmation, "I don't let myself be seduced by empty pleasures that weaken my will," into your daily internal dialogue, you are strengthening your capacity for discernment and self-control. This affirmation helps you question your impulses before yielding to them. Will this momentary pleasure bring me closer to the person I want to be, or will it drive me away? Will it strengthen or weaken me in the long run? To apply this principle, identify your personal trap pleasures. Those activities that provide you with immediate gratification but leave you feeling empty or guilty afterward. Deliberately practice what the Stoics called temporary abstinence, periods in which you voluntarily abstain from certain comforts or pleasures to strengthen your mastery over your desires. Cultivate greater awareness of the difference between authentic pleasure that arises from growth, meaningful connection, and virtuous action, versus the hollow pleasure of mere sensory stimulation. Remember that true sustainable pleasure comes from self-discipline and inner freedom, not from slavery to momentary impulses. 12. I don't waste vital energy on unnecessary confrontations. A surprising amount of our time and energy is consumed in confrontations that bring us nothing valuable. Fruitless arguments on social networks, polarized political debates where no one has a real intention to listen, ruminating over past offenses, or getting involved in the drama of situations over which we have no control or responsibility. The Stoics understood that our vital energy is limited and that we must manage it wisely. Marcus Aurelius advised us to avoid wasting time on trivial things and to concentrate on the essential. This doesn't mean avoiding all conflict. Some disagreements deserve our attention and commitment, but developing the wisdom to discern which battles are really worth fighting. When you repeat, "I don't waste vital energy on unnecessary confrontations," you are cultivating strategic discernment about where to invest your mental and emotional resources. This affirmation helps you ask yourself, is this confrontation really necessary? Is it aligned with my deepest values? Do I have any chance of positively influencing the situation, or am I just feeding my ego? To apply this principle, before getting involved in a disagreement, ask yourself, will this matter in a year? Practice what the Stoics called selective indifference. The ability to let the trivial pass without feeling the need to correct every mistake or respond to every provocation. Develop the habit of the strategic pause. When you feel the impulse to react defensively, take 3 deep breaths and remember your broader priorities. When you decide that a confrontation is necessary, approach it with clarity about your objective and commitment to maintaining your integrity, regardless of how the other person responds. Conserving your energy doesn't mean being passive in the face of injustice, but being strategic about where and how you apply your strength. 13. Life is brief. That's why each of my actions has a clear purpose. One of the greatest human tragedies is reaching the end of life and realizing that we have wasted our time on meaningless activities, pursuing externally imposed goals, or postponing what really matters while keeping busy with the trivial. The awareness of mortality, memento mori, as the Stoics called it, is not a morbid meditation, but a powerful catalyst for living with greater intention and purpose. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself of the brevity of life as a way to focus his attention on the essential and eliminate the superfluous. This acute awareness of our finitude has the power to radically transform our priorities, clearly revealing which things truly deserve our attention and which are mere distractions. When each morning you tell yourself, life is brief, that's why each of my actions has a clear purpose, you are establishing a mental filter that will help you evaluate your decisions throughout the day. This affirmation is not intended to generate anxiety, but quite the opposite, to free you from the tyranny of the urgent but irrelevant, allowing you to concentrate on what truly adds meaning and value to your existence. To live this principle, practice the Stoic exercise of visualizing your own mortality, not to generate fear, but to clarify your priorities. Before committing to new projects or responsibilities, ask yourself, is this worth my lifetime? Develop the habit of regularly asking yourself, if I knew I had a year to live, would I still be doing this? Evaluate your current goals. Are they really yours, or are you pursuing what others expect of you? The awareness of our mortality does not lead us to despair, but to a greater appreciation of the time we have and a renewed determination to invest it in what truly matters. 14. In losses, I find clarity about what really matters. Losses and failures, though painful, are some of our most powerful teachers. When we lose an important relationship, a job, an opportunity, or even significant material possessions, the veil of what we took for granted is torn, and we can see with new clarity what is truly essential in our life. The Stoics cultivated a particular relationship with loss and failure. Instead of fearing or avoiding them at all costs, they saw them as opportunities for growth, clarification of values, and strengthening of character. Seneca even recommended practicing voluntary deprivation periodically to remind us of our capacity for adaptation and how little we really need to live with dignity. When you repeat, "In losses I find clarity about what really matters," you are reframing difficult experiences as portals to deeper wisdom. This affirmation helps you approach setbacks not as injustices you must resist, but as revealing experiences that, although painful, can bring you valuable perspectives. To embody this principle, after a significant loss or failure, ask yourself, what is this experience teaching me about my true priorities? Practice the Stoic exercise of premeditation of adversities. Visualize possible losses to reduce their emotional impact and prepare yourself mentally for them. To keep a lesson record where you specifically document what you have learned from each difficult experience. Remember that many of the wisest, most resilient, and compassionate people attribute their depth to the losses and failures they have experienced, not to their successes and victories. It is not what we lose that determines our experience, but what we do with that loss. 15. I wisely distinguish between the urgent and the important. In the frenetic pace of modern life, it's easy to fall into the trap of confusing the urgent with the important. Constant notifications, tight deadlines, immediate demands from others. Everything clamors for our attention as if it were a matter of life and death, but the urgent is not always what matters most. In fact, many times, the urgent is simply what makes the most noise. The Stoics understood that a well-lived life is not built by reacting to everything that happens, but by intentionally choosing what deserves our energy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not let what is not important rob you of what is." And he was right. When everything is a priority, nothing really is. When you repeat, "I wisely distinguish between the urgent and the important," you are training your mind to respond instead of react, to prioritize the essential above the circumstantial. This affirmation becomes a mental beacon that guides you through daily chaos with direction and purpose. To practice this Stoic principle, before saying yes to a new task, ask yourself, does this directly contribute to my deepest values, or is it just a noisy distraction? Use the Eisenhower matrix, important versus urgent, to organize your responsibilities and make decisions with strategic clarity. Reserve time each week to review your goals and ensure that your actions are aligned with what truly matters. Learn to say no without guilt, knowing that each time you prioritize the important, you are honoring your life purpose. Are you willing to live each day guided by your principles, even if the whole world tries to distract you? Subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share in the comments which of these principles impacted you the most. Thank you for being here. See you in the next video.